The site of Samaria was purchased from a wealthy farmer. This is significant. Who bought it? A king of Israel. Samaria was built by King Omri into the solid bedrock of the hill during the 9th century BC, hundreds of years before Arabs would settle there. Omri recognized its value as a strategic military presence. Situated on a high hill, it was surrounded by other hills. It had an excellent view of the surrounding regions, and all those hills provided security. The valleys surrounding it were fertile, and the area had historic meaning to the Israelites. Abraham's altar was there, as well as Shechem and Joseph's bones. Omri's capital was first excavated during the seasons from 1908 to 1910. Later, archaeologists assigned the oldest section of the palace to Omri. He is mentioned in several ancient texts. The most famous is probably the Moabite stone. His territory was called Omri land by foreign nations, and it continued to be called that 100 years after his dynasty ended. Samaria remained the capital of the northern kingdom for about 200 years. It ended under the Assyrian Empire when they invaded the northern kingdom. Many of its people were murdered, and many of its people were moved to distant regions. But there were survivors, and Israelite Samaritans still live in the West Bank, in Kiryat Lusa. Despite his political success, the Bible records Omri's reign in only 12 verses. He was more respected by foreign nations. The reason was he worshipped idols. But his administrative potential is hard to miss. Today, the people of Israel still value Samaria for its military importance for the protection of Israel's citizens. After the attack from Gaza, the recognition of this is even more pronounced. Their instinct, based on experience, advises them to dig into the bedrock, the same as Omri, and hold on to it. Let's talk more about Samaria right now. It is frequently said that Israel does not own and has never owned the West Bank, also known as the biblical Judea and Samaria. But the truth is, the original plan, called the Mandate for Palestine, included all of what is Israel and Jordan today. That's a big area. But a few years later, in 1922, land east of the Jordan River was given to Arabs. This was roughly 78% of the land, and it was sectioned off to create an Arab country, which became Jordan. The remaining 22% was planned for Israel. But later, the 22% was divided into 3 sections, giving Arabs more of the land. The Jewish people were to possess Bethlehem. Arabs were to possess Samaria. Then the United Nations took over from the Brits the work of carving up the area they called Palestine into 3 distinct regions. But the partition plan was rejected by the Palestinian Arab leadership and most of the Arab population. This is important to know because this nullified all agreements, and Britain planned to pull out, handing the territory to the Jewish leadership. But Britain still catered to Arab interests, and so that they could maintain their relations for oil. But it was during this time that the nation of Israel was born. So after rejecting the offer to create a Palestinian state, Arabic leaders decided to take all the land previously under negotiation by military force. 5 nations invaded the new country of Israel, but they lost. Israel won more territory than they originally held. Jordan, however, which was one of the countries who invaded, seized the West Bank and held it for the next 19 years. Egypt took Gaza. During that time, there was no push by Jordan or Egypt to create an independent Palestinian state for the Arabs living in the West Bank or Gaza. Palestinian Arabs in these areas were considered refugees. Those living in Israel were offered citizenship. and the Palestinians who had fled into Jordan proper were also given Jordanian citizenship. But the Palestinians in the West Bank continued to be refugees. As Arabs continued to attack Israel, tensions rose, culminating in the War of 1967, when Israel defeated Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, and Iraq in 6 days. Israel won the Golan Heights, the West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem, and even the Sinai Peninsula. It was an astounding victory, and it made Israel a regional power. Concerning the West Bank, Judea, and Samaria, in 1988, Jordan severed its ties to the West Bank and East Jerusalem, except they negotiated to still maintain control of the Muslim holy sites there. This left the Palestinian Arabs in the hands of the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. But officially, the land had never been under Palestinian control because they had rejected the partition plan and decided to go to war instead. And then they lost the war. So in 1994, Jordan recognized the Jordan River as the international boundary. And during the same time, the Palestinian Authority was formed, and in the Oslo Accords, again, no Palestinian state was created. The UN resolution about peace for land has been disputed ever since 1967, and the Palestinians continued to draw up plans no one recognized. Then, in the early 2000s, the Prime Minister of Israel offered to withdraw from Samaria and Judea, giving the Palestinians 97% of the land and all of Gaza. But the Palestinian leader refused. He called for terror attacks instead, and the Second Intifada erupted. Now, the Palestinians did end up controlling Gaza in 2005 under the disengagement plan, but they lost it to Hamas. The Israeli Defense Force operations, Summer Rain, Cast Lead, and Protective Edge, were Israel's response to increased attacks from Gaza on Israeli citizens. Today, parts of the West Bank, which is Judea and Samaria, are controlled by the Palestinian Authority, but attacks launched from those areas are a continual threat to all the citizens living there and a reminder of what happened in Gaza. Samaria has seen a lot of wars, and unfortunately, it's not over yet. Because here we are 20 years later working to return the same areas, Samaria and Gaza, back to Israel because the Palestinian state, the two-state solution, was proved to be an epic failure for Jews and the Palestinian people. Not only has the disengagement plan produced the worst terror attack against Israel in recent history and continues to produce attacks, it has also resulted in a lower quality of life among Muslims who identify as Palestinians living under their own governments focused on terror. Yes, there has already been Palestinian rule in Israel. It is in Samaria and it was in Gaza, where no Jewish people were allowed to live. The two-state solution has been tried and it failed to produce peace because Muslims living in these areas under their own rule were not interested in cultivating their own successful, thriving, healthy country. Instead, the regions became outposts from which to attack Jewish civilians living in their own places and minding their own businesses. The UN resolution of land for peace is a failed idea because Palestinian Arab leaders have been rejecting it since before 1948. But the controversy marches on, still with support from international agencies and foreign countries. It will continue to its biblical, prophetic conclusion. Israel is going to end up with more land, which will include Samaria and Judea, and they will rule over it for about 1,000 years at least. So what in this history stands out to you as important? Tell us in the comments below, and stay tuned for more on Samaria in the coming weeks. The story of Samaria is not just one of ancient battles and shifting borders. It's a living testament to Israel's enduring connection to its land. Despite the failed promises of peace and the persistent conflicts, Samaria stands as a firm symbol of Israel's unyielding determination to safeguard its citizens, both Arab and Jew, and its heritage. The history of this land, from King Omri's vision to the modern-day struggle for security, reminds us that territorial disputes are not merely political. They're deeply tied to identity, legacy, and survival. As history unfolds, it's clear that Samaria's place in Israel's future is secure, shaped by both ancient prophecies and the undeniable reality of its significance to the Jewish people. The two-state solution may have failed, but the truth remains. Samaria, like the rest of Israel, is not up for negotiation. It's here to stay, standing strong for centuries to come. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next video.